Okay, so as you know, your first paper in this class is a narrative paper. We are in the narrative unit. So we're going to start talking about what constitutes a narrative. What are the characteristics of narrative? What do you need to know how to write a narrative? So that's what we're going to look at right now. So make sure you are taking notes and participating, actively engaged in your thinking, and let's get started. So, narrative. So, what is a narrative? A narrative is a story containing specific elements that work together to create interest for not only the author, but also for the reader. This type of writing makes the reader feel as if he or she were a part of the story and as if it were being told directly to him or her. So, the elements of narrative writing. So, one is the plot. It's the who, the what, when, where, why, and how outline that gives narrative direction. So, what is the story about? The events unfold as they happen, and it's the frame of the narrative. So, when you have the who, what, when, where, why, and how, that is how the story unfolds. That is how you tell a story. That is not how a research paper or a persuasive paper go. This is about storytelling. So the plot, the beginning of it is enticing and it's an opening to capture the reader's interest. If it's a total snooze fest and you're just like, yeah, so we were, just sleeping late. So if it's something like super dull and boring, it's not going to capture the reader's interest. They're not going to want to keep reading. So also in the beginning, the setting is revealed. The main characters are introduced and the conflict is presented. The plot, that is in the middle of the story. The characters attempt to resolve conflicts or problems. The action progresses sequentially. It goes step by step. And then you have the climax, the turning point of the narrative. It reveals the process involved for solving the conflicts. That's like the most stressful, tense part. Then you have the end. This tells how the resolution of the conflicts have affected the characters. No new characters or plot ideas are introduced, and the theme or the message is understood by the reader. Characters. It's the people, animals, or inanimate objects who are affected by the actions of the plot and who are the cause of certain events. Characters, whether they're real or imaginative, should be brought to life through the narrative. If a character is not described well, the story won't be believable. So if you just say, well, it was a girl, okay, that doesn't give the reader a picture in their head of what this person is supposed to look like. The setting, it is where and when the narrative takes place. It allows the readers to visualize the scenes and the characters in those scenes. Although the setting may be clear for the author, he or she must create a picture for the readers. Style. It's the figurative language, like similes and metaphors, sensory imagery, vivid verbs, strong sentences, dialogue, and point of view that makes each author and their writing unique. Every student, meaning each of you, has your own style and technique. Although we have the same topic, everyone will write it differently. So if you have someone in this class or just someone that you know in general who is a really good writer, you are also a good writer, in your own way. It might differ from someone else's. Someone else may have more experience, but it is about finding what you do best and how you write best and all of that. Conflict. The problem that must be overcome or resolved so that the reader will not be left hanging. So types of conflict can be person versus self, person versus person, person versus society, person versus machine or technology, or person versus nature. So person versus self, here's an example of one of those. So 1 month ago, Abby was assigned a book to read for a book report. Upon sitting at the computer to work on it, Abby struggled with the decision to do the reading or to surf the web instead. She felt guilty knowing she should do the work, but was really motivated by her desire to look up new information about her favorite rock band. Person versus person. Abby and her best friend Megan are working together on a group project. Abby did not do any work, leaving it all for Megan to do. When the girls get together to do the project, Megan finds out Abby did not do any work. She becomes angry, yells at Abby, and storms out of the room. Person versus society. Abby needs to go to the library to begin working on her project. When she arrives, she finds out that juveniles under the age of 18 cannot enter the library without a parent. Her mom is at work. Abby is mad about this and totally out of control. She writes a letter to the library expressing her disgust. Person versus machine or technology. Abby begins her report, finally. All of a sudden, there is a power surge and her computer crashes. She loses all the information that she has and has been working on for hours. Poor Abby. She's got a lot of stuff going on, huh? Person versus nature. Abby tries to remember exactly where she left her book for the report. She remembers that she was sitting on a bench outside of her house, so she returns to that spot. She finds it, however, it rained last night before, and the book is in shambles. And next is theme. A theme is a message revealed in the story. It may be directly stated, like in a fable where the moral is told at the conclusion. It may be indirect, leaving the reader to decide the story's message. Or there can be more than one theme for a narrative. So narrative stories are written in different points of view. So you have to think about who is telling the story. So first person point of view, the narrator uses the word I, and it's good for personal accounts, like if you were speaking on something that happened to you or that is a part of your story. For example, I will never forget the day that my hamster died. Third person point of view, limited. So that's when you use he, she, it, they perspective. It's written as if the story is observed from the outside of the characters. Readers must guess the feeling of the characters by their actions and words. For example, he pounded his fist against the wall and screamed, "Let me out." Third person point of view, omniscient. So this is also a he, she, it, they perspective. The narrator can also write about the thoughts and feelings of the character. So it's not just what they're observing on the outside. They even know what's going on in their heads. For example, she called him a liar, though she knew he was telling the truth. So also with a narrative, work through the 5 W's and H questions method. So if you are answering the 5 W and H questions, it helps provide the basic information that you need for your story. So it's a really good jumping off point to figure out what you need to include, what's important, and how to just fill out all the information. So who will be in the narrative? Where will the narrative take place? Why will the characters do what they do? What is the narrative about? And when will the events happen? And how will the conflict be resolved? Sensory imagery. Using the 5 senses when writing a narrative helps the reader picture and feel what's going on. Describe what you see, hear, taste, touch, and smell to make your reader become more involved in the story. Figurative language is the use of descriptive words that bring your reader into the story. So, for example, similes. It's a comparison between 2 unlike things using like or as. Her smile was so wide it looked like a piano keyboard. Or he was sick as a dog. Or metaphor. A metaphor directly compares 2 unlike things without using like or as. For example, the boy was a golden knight protecting his little sister from the fire-breathing dragon that lives in the sandbox. More figurative language, personification. So it assigns human characteristics and traits to non-human objects. For example, the pencil fought furiously with the eraser, battling over question number 3. Hyperbole. It's the use of gross exaggeration to describe something that could never happen in real life. For example, the teacher's voice was so loud the astronauts orbiting the Earth could hear her lecture. Also, alliteration. So alliteration is the repetition of 2 or more sounds. For example, the witches washed out, withered lips whispered. Quote, watch what awaits you at the bewitching hour. The alliteration there is the W sound. It's also very much a tongue twister, but I am a big fan of alliteration. I like writing that way. I feel like it's impactful. I'm just a fan of it. That doesn't make it better than others. Onomatopoeia. It's a word that imitates a sound. For example, the cow moos in the pasture. Moo is an onomatopoeia because it sounds, we spell it and we say the word how it sounds.